From service to strength, from questions to choice, guidance you trust, HerVetVoice.
Hello, YouTube. Happy Friday. Thank you for joining. I hope you had an amazing week. Welcome back to HerVetVoice. If you're new here, this is where we break down VA benefits in a way that actually makes sense. And tonight, we are talking about something that confuses a lot of veterans and that there is a difference between. So, we're going to talk about toxic exposure, which is TERA, the PACT Act, and the Gulf War claims. We are welcoming FF and Natural, who's here to join us to answer your questions. And welcome, everybody. Thank you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And let's get into it. Hey, Queen Nurse. Thank you. Hey, 66. Love. Thank you. And hey, OTILC. How are you? Hello to our TikTok community. You can join us on YouTube if you would like. So, hello, Natural. Hello, FF. Can you guys hear me? Are you here, FF?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay. Natural, you here?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening.
All right. All right. Hello, good evening. Why did I not get the notice? I don't know. I have no clue. I don't know what's happening on YouTube. So, okay. So, because there is so many questions on this PACT Act, the Gulf War, TERA, what you guys call toxic exposure, we are here to discuss what the difference is, how it affects your VA claim, what you can claim, and how you can get secondaries attached to the PACT Act. What do you need if you need a diagnosis? What exactly you have to do in order to get these, get your claims approved. So there is such a difference between the TERA, the PACT Act, and the Gulf War claims. And before we get into deep into explaining each one of them, Natural and FF, do you want to share a little bit of light on how the TERA, PACT Act, and the Gulf War claims came about?
Well, the PACT Act, I don't want to use the word restarted, but as far as we know, the PACT Act got reintroduced in 2022 for Gulf War, post 9/11, and it just kind of gave some more presumptives. There were some presumptives already for like Vietnam era, like diabetes. That was presumptive since 2001, right, Natural? But a lot of people,
Yes.
they didn't really go back that far, so it kind of seemed like the PACT Act was new for presumptives. They just added a few more, like hypertension and, oh my gosh, I'll look it up later, but it's like 2 more that they added.
Okay.
But they already had some presumptives. It just brought it more to light for Gulf War and post 9/11. And the PACT Act contains presumptives, right? Most people will probably know about sinusitis, and rhinitis, things like that.
Yeah.
So if it's presumptive, it takes away the need for a link. You still have to have the diagnosis, but if you were at this location during this time, they have presumptive conditions under the PACT Act. The TERA is the toxic exposure risk activity. That's just what we call it. Okay, so those are for non-presumptives. Okay, so if we can't find a way to connect it, we'll look to see if there's a TERA that we can use to try to go ahead and get you service connected for that condition. And your TERA, they vary because it depends on it just kind of varies, but it is a different way to get you connected with using the TERA. And I feel like I'm forgetting a lot of stuff.
That's okay.
What am I forgetting, Natural?
Whatever it is, we're gonna cover it tonight on this slide. We've been in the queue all day. Our brain shuts off at 2:30.
Yes. Oh my God, it's still like.
So,
I do know under the PACT Act, it was
Today was long.
The cancers, different cancers got introduced. It was for head, neck cancers. I think it's gastrointestinal, kidney cancer, respiratory and breathing cancers. I think thyroid cancers. I want to say COPD, emphysema, sarcoidosis. I'm trying to just think. And then for, I think AO was that hypertension and that MGUS, that mono whatever, gamma whatever, that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the simplest way that I think
the PACT Act gave you presumptive, and then
yeah, but we can't grant it. We can't grant the PACT Act until when the law, it was enacted on August the 10th of 22.
22, yes, correct.
Yes.
10th, 2022.
Yeah, 8/10/22. You had to have, in order to get it under, you had to have a diagnosis prior to where we could go back a year if we can't award to 8/10/2022. So if you had a diagnosis, say like 2018, and we're granting it to PACT, we can take it back 1 year from your effective date.
Correct. Yes. All right. So let's get with the simplest way to understand it that FF explained, and this is what I got. Toxic exposure is the umbrella. TERA is how the VA evaluates the exposure. And the PACT Act is the law that expanded the benefits. And the Gulf War is the specific type of claim with special rules. That's how I have narrowed it down to, so you guys can understand. So instead of thinking about separate, they're all separate, there's a link of them, the link to them as layers, right? You'll think of them as just layering them as you go ahead. So let's start with, let's bring up our presentation here.
Oh, there's a presentation. Oh.
Yes. You know, we always got you guys covered. So let's start with the PACT Act. Okay. The PACT Act is literally the game changer and has always been the game changer. It's always been the game changer. It's the game changer, right? The PACT Act, when the law changed, everything for toxic exposure claims, the PACT Act, the presumptive conditions, the VA automatically assume your condition is service connected. And if you meet the location, the time, and the requirements, now you don't have to prove the nexus, right? So let's look at what's here about the PACT Act. So the PACT Act is the promise to address comprehensive toxics act. It is one of the largest expansions of VA healthcare and the benefits in history. It expands presumptive conditions for veterans exposed to burn pits, airborne hazards, Agent Orange, radiation, and other toxins. It increases access to VA healthcare enrolled for millions of veterans. And I remember when the PACT Act actually came about, millions of veterans were eligible, and they still are. The PACT Act was able to improve screening, research, and claims processing for the toxic exposure. So before I go any further, ladies, do you want to say anything specifically about the PACT Act?
I just want to say, like, the PACT Act, it makes it easier for you to get the connection because it takes away the link, but it does not remove the requirement for you to have a diagnosis. So please make sure you have a diagnosis.
Correct. The diagnosis is always needed. Anything natural, or you want me to just keep going with the PACT Act?
Keep rolling, keep rolling.
Okay, so the key PACT Act presumptive locations are Gulf War, post 9/11 region, which is Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait, and Syria, etc. Then we look at Agent Orange and the expanded locations like Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Guam, American Samoa, and Johnson Atoll. Their radiation locations, they were exposure there, and then we can get into Camp Lejeune and the water contamination. So let's talk about why the PACT Act matters. Respiratory conditions such as chronic bronchitis, chronic rhinitis, sinusitis, and asthma, cancers such as brain, kidney, pancreatic, lung, melanoma, and others are very important when it comes to the PACT Act. And since the deployment and all the things that veterans have encountered in deployments, I felt like the PACT Act was the best way for the VA to go because there were so many different things that veterans were exposed to in all these different locations, and they were able to narrow it down into a category where veterans are able to get the care that they need for what they're experiencing. So the other systematic conditions were hypertension when it came to Agent Orange, and I'm going to call this the MGUS because this thing gets me tongue-tied, and I'm not going to say that tonight, right? So when we look at, let's start with the burn pits. Let's start with the burn pits because where did I go? The burn pits. This is, when I think about the burn pits, I think about the waste disposal and the way how waste was disposed when you were stationed in Iraq or you were deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, and it caused a lot of health risks, meaning that there were some respiratory issues or whatever issues you were facing from the burn pits. That's how I explain to veterans when it comes to the burn pits. This is how I explain it. When it comes to Agent Orange, I narrow it down to the herbicides used in the Vietnam War and what health implications came about when it came to Agent Orange. When you think about the PACT Act, you have to talk about the exposure when it comes to respiratory disease, cancer, and neurological disorders. And I know we talked about the other night where sometimes you feel like you could be getting old or, it's just old age, but you have to think about where did you have instances where you were deployed and what did you encounter there and how you can narrow back what you are experiencing now to where you were deployed and what happened there. Anything, ladies?
No, I think that was good. And if there's an instance to where you were exposed, but it's not presumptive, sometimes this happens, for our Vietnam vets, in the way that you had to discard, whatever those were. You would probably want to make sure that you have an updated TERA to include whatever those exposures were, because typically the burn pit isn't presumptive for the Vietnam era. But we can update your TERA. You just have to give us pretty good details about what it was you were doing, when and where, so we can update it for you.
Okay, so we have a question here. Effective date, granted P&T through HLR by way of TERA. Effective date was August of 2022. The grant came with the duty to assist error change in 2021, DC 5237 to 5003 to 5240. Preserve effective date. Do I get any retro pay?
Do you get any retro pay for what, to 2011? I'm not understanding because you can't get TERA didn't come into law until August of 22. So if you're granted based on the PACT Act, you can't get an effective date any earlier than 8/10/2022.
Okay, I hope that helps. OTISC.
And I was gonna say, for Agent Orange, you didn't necessarily have boots on ground to have exposure, because a lot of times, sometimes when the equipment came back, the Agent Orange chemical was on the vehicles. So some veterans did get exposed to AO because they had contact with the vehicles and different equipment that came back from Republic of Vietnam. It's just a little harder to prove because we look at boots on ground, but we do have where if you had contact with like aircrafts and different things like that, we can look at it like that also. And then you have asbestos exposure. You have a couple different other terrors that can come out of this.
All right. OCILC said for the duty to assist change, if it was changed by way of 38 CFR 3.156.
So the duty to assist that was attached to the diagnostic code?
It can't, if it's granted on PACT, I don't care what.
It can't be before.
It can't be before 8/10/2022. There's no way possible. Even if it was when was the duty to assist error called? Because it depends on when you filed this claim and when they denied it. Because if it was before PACT, you cannot be granted under TERA for the condition.
And it's for his back. If I looked at the code right, wasn't that a back? An arthritis or something?
What was the code again?
It was 5237.
Yeah, PACT, that first of all, you can't get PACT. You can't get TERA. That's a PACT exclusion for back. So you couldn't have been granted your back based on TERA. There's no, if you did, that's a CUE, because you can't grant your back. No musculoskeletals are granted under PACT.
He said May of 2025.
If it's for his back, that's an error.
Sit tight.
That duty to assist may have been for the code itself, but not for the.
It can't be granted. Yeah, 5237 can't be granted under TERA.
But he also mentioned 5003 and 5240.
That's arthritis, right?
Arthritis. It still doesn't matter. That's a musculoskeletal. You can't grant it under PACT. It's a PACT exclusion.
So maybe they just put the wrong code in.
Oh, if he's using 52.3.
Oh yeah.
The denial cause.
Since the letter came in long form narrative, it changed from 5237 to 5003 to 52-40. It was a hyphenated code. He says it's systematic.
Okay, again, arthritis. Okay. I'm just gonna say okay.
Somebody
said typically those aren't PACT related.
Yeah, those are not PACT related. RA is not PACT related.
Yeah, it's not PACT related. Yeah,
it's not, because that affects your joints. Again, anything with musculoskeletal is a PACT exclusion. We don't even order TERAs for that. Although sometimes people do, it is a PACT exclusion. You can't do it. Look it up.
And that's why we're here, guys, so you guys can know where to go and where to get the information to look it up. Okay?
Yeah, and to get that one as a chronic, I think it had to be within a year of discharge, right? So did you get out in 2020? Well, no, because we took it back to PACT Act. So yeah, maybe the duty to assist error was on the actual codes used.
I still don't know how you can get granted PAC under for a back. That's wrong. First off,
I think the duty to assist error was on the diagnostic code and not on the actual rating.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. Do it still have? Go ahead.
Without saying the narrative to be able to, break it down, I'm just gonna, assume that it was for the condition, and if it's granted based on PACT, then
if he got it based on PACT, that means he got it within a year after he got out for it to be chronic. But if they took it back to 2022, then that's probably not.
You can't get it for a back. You can't get it. Yeah, you can't get it for a musculoskeletal. So I don't know how he's granted it under PACT.
Because that code is for arthritis. That's not the rheumatoid arthritis code.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So let's talk about TCE. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce this because I'm not with it tonight. So
my brain is done for today. They got all their money out of me today.
Industrial solvent used for degreasing metal parts, cleaning machinery, manufacturing processes. It is found in the groundwater, soil, and air near industrial or military sites. So we often get a lot of people that say, I just seen somebody on TikTok saying, I was a mechanic in a field job. What can I qualify under PACT? A lot of people question, what they can qualify for under PACT. Go ahead.
So it's not based off of your MOS. It's based off the duties you performed under that MOS. That's what the toxic exposure is. So we'll look at the MLS and look at the duties performed like a mechanic. Okay, we know that you're exposed to JPA, solvents, other oils and stuff like that. So that's the part that we look at. It's under the job that you perform, the duties, not the MOS, but the duties you perform, and then we will send for a TERA based on that.
Got it.
So and you have to claim a disability. You need to be clear with what you're claiming. You can't just say PACT Act, oil, or something like that.
Which people do. They'll just be like, knee, PACT Act. Well,
not the knee.
Yeah, she's telling the truth, the absolute truth. That's all they'll say.
It's pretty much saying if you serve in the war zone, you have to show where you served, what you did. There has to be some type of meaning behind it. And I know what you're talking about, FF and natural, because I see a lot of people say, well, I got hypertension in that PACT Act, or, so they try to associate every and anything. And then, they're just dipping and diving. Like, for instance, the rheumatoid arthritis. I've heard a lot of people saying, like, if you got anything with your bones or, that's from exposure. No.
We can, if you have Southwest Asia service, we can do it due to joint pain as a presumptive under for the muck beast, but not PACT.
And that's why I said it's based on the war zones that you served in, right? Veterans who serve in designated combat war zones, such as Iraq, Afghanistan, where burn pits were used, then you would know that burn pits are where you would try to qualify in. Then if you do Agent Orange, if you serve in Vietnam, Korea, etc., you were exposed to those Agent Orange. Then we talk about radiation exposure, nuclear testing. If you work in that like a specific nuclear facility, then you know that toxic exposure. Okay. If you were exposed to like hazardous substances like asbestos, pesticides, or any industrial chemicals, then that's toxic exposure. And then
now, in the Navy, I'm sorry, Hervette. In the Navy, there are jobs in certain military, they have nuclear weapons jobs. So we can, on that, we you know that you have, exposure to nuclear radiation, stuff like that. So those go to, if we have anything that says they were exposed to ionizing radiation, that can be looked at under PACT. And as far as like Gulf War, a lot of, well, we'll get to that, but in the Navy, asbestos, they have PFAS, AFFF, because part of the Navy is they have to go through a class for firefighting training. So those are, it's different exposures for, different, it's just how when I don't like when BSRs do the toxic exposure work memo, because they don't get all they don't they'll just be like no toxic exposure, or they'll put just random stuff and it's not correct. So I find myself redoing a lot of the toxic exposure memos, because if it shows that the veteran didn't have any toxic exposure, then we can't ask for a TERA medical opinion. So I think that Raider should do the toxic exposure memo.
I've heard you mention that before. Somebody has a question, which is a good question. How do you guys tell that you had a nuclear weapon job, like in detail? How do you tell? How are you able to tell?
Their DD-214 tells their job. And then you can look at their evaluations, and it'll tell, because some people have more than one position. And like in the Navy, the boatswain mates, they do everything on the ship. So they're everywhere on the ship. So they have like a wider range of stuff that they can be given under the possible toxic exposures. So typically, when we look at a person's DD-214, it will tell us what their primary job was, if they had any additional jobs, and then we can base, if we go look at their evaluation and see that they were evaluated performing those duties, we can base their toxic exposures off those duties.
And even for the ones who did like the cleanups at some of the locations, I can't remember them all, but I know there was like Spain with the Air Force, like if they were part of the cleanup project. There's another one at
when they were at Johnson Atola
yes.
too.
Yeah. So even if they did things like that and they helped clean it, it may not be a normal part, but again, this is where the veteran says, hey, I participated in, blah, blah, blah during this time. So that we can go ahead and, get more details. And they have to have a diagnosis to go along with it. It can't just say, I did this and it was exposed to radiation without a diagnosis.
So now that you said that, I wanted to get in a little bit about when you have unexplained health issues and you are not able to, you've developed an unexplained respiratory illness, for instance, or cancer and health issues after your military service. How do you file for toxic exposure? If you have unexplained health issues, how are you able to file for toxic exposure?
Typically, like FF said, you have to have some sort of diagnosis. With, if you are like Gulf War, like we said, if you served in Southwest Asia and the conditions that you are diagnosed with falls under the presumptives, then we will ask for what we call a Gulf War medical opinion. If it falls under Agent Orange, with Agent Orange, if you are diagnosed with it, we do not have to get a medical opinion for that. If it falls up under the umbrella of AO, we can just grant it based off of the diagnosis. And some of Gulf War, we can do that too.
Oh yeah, because you may have like you aren't really sure what it is, but maybe you've been coughing more or shortness of breath, things like that, signs and symptoms. You may not know what it is, but as Natural was saying, we will order that opinion and it kind of covers it, because again, you don't have to be a medical professional. You know what you're feeling. And so that's valid. And we'll just get that opinion to try to have a doctor determine what it is.
So let's get into a couple of questions here. How can the VA increase hypertension? I am on 3 different medications and it's still high. I am rated as 0% for it.
Your diastolic and systolic has to be 160 over, I think 90 or
90.
over 100. Yeah. On consecutive basis, like even on the medication, if it's uncontrolled, then you have to have evidence of your blood pressures being that high, even on the medication. Because typically, if you're on medication, it should show that it's controlled by the medication. If it's not, it either means you're not taking the medication like you're supposed to take. Because what happens, some veterans, not saying you, but they will not take the medication the day of the exam and go there, and their blood pressure is off the chart. Some of them end up in the hospital because doing that. But if we look in, because honestly, the blood pressures that's indicated on the DBQ are typically lower. So what I do is I'll go look in, if you treated at the VAMC, I will go look at your vitals, and I will look at if there are some times where your blood pressure will spike. We have to have 3 blood pressures that show that it was spiked, and then we take it and average it and give you an average blood pressure, and that's how we determine if you get a 0, 10, or whatever.
And if that's still not working for you, if it's still high, you may need to speak with your doctor to switch your medication.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
There's 3 different
medicines.
Wow.
3, that's crazy.
Natural, I have a question for you. If someone had a heart valve replacement on lifetime meds and nuclear stress in 2018, METs 1.00 EF 50 to 50%, in 2026 METs 1.0 and EF 48%, how would a rater view using the TERA?
Well, it depends on which era. I mean, where you went. It's a lot of different factors in it. We would have to ask for a TERA medical opinion to even see if this is warranted a service connection first. So all
this is presumptive for AO, I think.
I think he's referring to this Fort McClellan. He is working on his Fort McClellan claim. Okay.
So the VA technically doesn't recognize Fort McClellan yet. They are doing studies, but they do not technically recognize it yet. Doesn't mean you can't put in the exam, the claim for that. But thank you, Hervets. She's pulling up the article on the VA. This is from the VA website about Fort McClellan, and it's little, so you can go ahead and read that.
It says that it talks about the exposures that they have, which is radioactive compounds, the chemical warfare agents, the fog oil, and HC smoke. It talks about the chemical plant and what happened there in South Fort McClellan in Anniston, Alabama. But it says that VA regularly consults with our federal agency partners to understand whether the potential public health risks exist in the base, and continue to review new information as it becomes available. So pretty much the VA has begun an extensive research of a review of historical documentation to understand the environmental and occupational conditions experienced by veterans stationed at Fort McClellan. This data will provide insight necessary for the development of a study design that will investigate links between the military service at Fort McClellan and reported health conditions. The VA do encourage veterans who are experiencing health issues and believed to be related to their service at Fort McClellan to see their primary care provider or local environmental health clinician. There is no VA environmental health registry associated with the services at Fort McClellan. So you may also file disability compensation, but it's not going to be attached to the Fort McClellan. Okay, I hope that helps you, U.S. Army grant. All right. Jason, hello, Jason. Why you didn't get a notice? I don't know. All right, so let's keep going. Let's go down here. We're way down here, guys. Let me get down here. Okay. I'm 0% for hypertension, but I'm glad it's got its service connected. Anything else related to blood can be secondary.
Are you asking, can you get anything else secondary to hypertension? If so, yes.
Hold on one second.
So again, U.S. Army grant, you can file that. We're not saying don't. We're just saying that the VA they haven't publicly came out and said we are accepting anything due to that. That's all we're saying. We're not saying not to file. We're just saying we pulled that article up just to show you that we are not, the VA has not technically recognized it. Doesn't mean you don't have toxic exposures. We're just saying that
they're not associating it with any claims right now. They're doing research. And we know how long the VA can take when they're doing research. So.
Right. Look how long it took them to even acknowledge Republic of Vietnam. So
yeah.
That was crazy.
Let's see. When the VA awards TDIU, is that permanent or subject to change? It depends. It depends.
It depends on the vet and what they do.
It depends on the veteran, and if you stay within the guidelines of TDIU, then you're good to go. If you go outside of the guidelines, then the VA is coming for you. My cousin was exposed to asbestos, jet fuel, and paint. TERA claim for asthma and COPD. Do you see many successful claims when it comes to that?
I've seen them go both ways.
Hypertension. An increase is not worth a stroke. Correct. Take your meds back, please. Take your meds. So we don't know. So the VA would never add. We don't know what they're going to do, but you know, when it comes to them doing studies, how it can be. Okay.
Yeah, but if you have an exposure and you can provide details, this is for all of you. You can always say, I was exposed to this. That is, the benefit of the TERA. If there's not a presumptive for it, is what they're saying. So you would still have to say, I was exposed to this during this time, and this is the condition that I have from these exposures. Like, it doesn't have to be presumptive in order for you to try to claim it. So
right. So TERA, claim it. We just saying that there is no official word on, hey, veterans that were stationed at Fort McClellan, these are the things that we've seen. That's what they're in the process of doing, gathering data for that. But you do have a toxic exposure. What I would say is explain in detail what you did when you were there, how long you were there, and the types of exposures you were exposed to. If we have the evidence that puts you there from that time frame, and you have documentation, even if you have pictures or you have, any type of studies you've seen, any type of peer review articles, and you have something that shows veterans that were at Fort McClellan, they have been diagnosed with, these types of disabilities or these types of cancers or whatever, submit all of that. That can help support your claim for toxic exposure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I did one for the gas chamber.
yes.
It was the first one I have ever done. And we know everybody goes through the gas chamber.
Did you grant it?
I did. This young lady, again, my first one ever, and she she developed and it was kind of easy because they ended up dismissing her for this, but she ended up developing it will start off like a chronic cough, and then she had mucus and things like that, but it ended up affecting her lung. And I was like, wow, to think, we all go through that, right? And it's just regular. But again, everyone's body is different and your body will behave differently. So if you have something that you were exposed to and you have something happening from it, you can still claim it. Just give us the details and the time as to when this thing happened. Nothing is impossible, but make sure you have a diagnosis or condition related to the exposure.
Yeah. Somebody said, and get a toxic screen to get those exposures in your VHA records. All right, we have a question here. Is there any way to look up different Navy ships to see what exposure people were exposed to? This is a good question.
Well, we have it when we look at the file.
Yeah, we have that,
and I'm not, and
I also, so when I get Navy veterans, I'll Google, like if they are claiming something, and I'll Google their deployment history to see where they were. And it'll tell me, like for Vietnam, it'll say Westpac, Vietnam, something like that. And then if the ship has been decommissioned, it'll tell you when it was decommissioned, what type of not chemicals, but what type of environmental hazards, and why they decommissioned it. So yes, just Google the ship that you were on, because I think, isn't it Florida where a lot of the ships are decommissioned at? I want to say Florida.
Yes,
I'm not.
And we have the logbook. So when you're
Carolina
telling
too?
your story, remember that we have the logbook.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do have the logbook.
Make sure it's consistent.
Hypertension, thyroid cancers, and heart valve issues with drill sergeant and infantryman. So was in all kinds of stuff in air, ground, water, degreasers for cleaning weapons.
Well, the way that you're explaining it to us, make sure you just write a detailed lay statement noting all of this.
And how it came into
how
it came into play, like what you were doing when you came into, play with all the groundwater, the degreasers, the cleaning weapons. Make it a detailed letter, but not too long, but detailed.
Right. And again, Google is your friend sometimes. Go Google, do some archive research on Fort McClellan and see what you come up with. And the type of and I'm sure if that soil was that bad, then I'm sure it's probably still EPA probably has some type of records about, because they have to come and take soil samples and stuff like that. You can use that type of information as evidence to support your exposures.
Because I think thyroid is a big one with the water.
That like with Camp Lejeune. Yeah.
All right.
And Camp Lejeune is just 30 days. You didn't have to be stationed there, but if you were there for 30 days, you can do the claim for the VA.
Right. You can be in there one day. That's, because even with AO, you didn't have to, if you were what is it? Is it 50 nautical
AO
miles?
is one day.
Yeah, but if some people are on ship, I think it's 50 nautical miles outside of Republic of Vietnam, we still concede AO's exposure.
All right, so let's get into a couple notes that we have here, which Camp Lejeune is getting ready to come up. Military relevance of toxic exposure, used extensively on military bases for decades. A major contaminant is Camp Lejeune water, which was from 1953 to 1987. The exposure pathway was through drinking water and showering, inhalation of vapors, and occupational exposure in the maintenance shop. So this was used extensively on military bases for decades. So the VA recognized conditions linked to toxic exposure include kidney cancer, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, cardiac defects in children of exposed mothers, liver disease, Parkinson's disease, immune system dysfunction. Those are just a few to name. Asbestos, okay. That was somebody else commenting something. The PACT Act strengthened toxic exposure screening includes the PACT Act strengthens toxic exposure screening. Veterans with Camp Lejeune exposure have presumptive conditions for disability benefits. It expands healthcare access for those who are exposure-related illnesses. Now, when it comes to the whole Camp Lejeune water thing, there's a lot of Veterans Acts questions as to how do they get the Camp Lejeune water in with their claim to get it filed, to get it connected, because when it comes to water, they talk about, well, I was just showering. So what do I say? Or, I was just drinking.
Well, hopefully they have a diagnosis for something.
Too, yes. But I always tell them, well, you just put, I'm showering daily. I drank water while I was, just put in detail exactly what it was. If you want to give us some, some information, but like you say, it all goes down to the diagnosis.
Yeah, because sometimes they'll just think, well, I was exposed, but again, it needs to accompany a diagnosis. Because sometimes, again, everyone's body is different, and sometimes, you just don't respond, or the body is, I don't want to say okay, but it doesn't have a negative reaction to some of these exposures. But if you do have, like you were there and you got leukemia or whatever the diagnosis is, just go ahead and file the claim and just give the time frame that you were there. Even if you, I don't know, we're visiting someone during your off time or whatever the case is, just give that time frame and make sure it's within the presumptive period if that's your goal. But you can always claim anything related to the exposure, even if it's outside of that time frame. It just won't be presumptive, but you can still claim it.
So for Camp Lejeune, I want to say that's between August of 53 to 87.
Like
I think
something like that.
December to 87.
Okay.
And then there's like 8 specific diseases that we look at for Camp Lejeune. I think one is leukemia, anemia.
Yeah, I know leukemia.
I think it's anemia, bladder cancer, kidney cancer, liver, myeloma, and non-Hodgkin's and Parkinson's. And then with Parkinson's, when you rate Parkinson's, you get like several different because the Parkinson's can affect your whole entire body. So when you get diagnosed with Parkinson, we don't just rate you for Parkinson, we rate you for your whole entire body if that Parkinson's is affecting several different parts of your body.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into Gulf War versus Gulf War illnesses versus the PACT Act differences. Who is considered a Gulf War veteran? The VA defines Gulf War services as beginning as August the 2nd of 1990 and continuing to the present for certain regions. This includes Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, Oman, the Gulf of Aden, the Gulf of Oman, and neutral zones between Iraq and Saudi Arabia. Some of the Gulf War presumptive illnesses are chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, functional gastrointestinal disorders, and some undiagnosed illnesses. Now, when we talk about undiagnosed illnesses, these are symptoms that may include but are not limited to like abnormal weight loss, fatigue, if you have any cardiovascular diseases, muscle and joint pain, headache, menstrual disorders in women, neurological and psychological problems, skin conditions, respiratory disorders, and sleep disturbances. Any insight, ladies, on the difference between Gulf War versus the illness versus the difference in PACT Act?
No, that looks good to me. And I think for VA purposes, the weight loss, it's 20, I think 20 pounds either way. You gain or lose. So that would be covered under the undiagnosed
illnesses. Yeah.
So even if you were in the Gulf War and you were exposed to burn pits, we do look at that under PACT for burn pits because of the cancers and the respiratory. You know, there's brain cancers and there's lymphomas, I think, melanomas, pancreatic cancer, reproductive cancer, respiratory cancers. What is that word? Something blastoma.
No skin cancers.
Yeah, it's no skin. But and of course the respiratory, we will, even though you served in Gulf because of the burn pits, that's when we kind of look at it under TERA because of the burn pit exposure.
That was one of the questions I had. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. That's what the difference is. So you have the Gulf War, which is the MUCME information that Hervets just gave you. But then you have the burn pit exposures, like those that were covered with the oil in the first one, you know, when all the oil was raining down. That and the burn pits are kind of tailored under the PACT Act. So that's why sometimes you'll see we ask for certain conditions under PACT, even though you were in the Gulf War era. If it's related to burn pits, we will ask for a TERA. Okay. If it's related to like the chronic fatigue and the cardiovascular signs and symptoms and the gastro, and GERD does not fall under the functional gastro because that's a structural thing. So that's not going to fall under the MUCME. But undiagnosed illness would be like she said, the headaches, the asthma, the bronchitis, and even sometimes we ask for asthma under the PACT Act too, even though you were in Gulf War because of the burn pits. But asthma is a presumptive. If you got a diagnosis, we typically grant it. Sinusitis, rhinitis. I think that's about it, right? FF, maybe bronchitis.
I think bronchitis is one as well. Yeah.
And if again you have the chronic cough, we can do that one too.
Oh, the persistent cough, yes. Okay, so let's look at an overview on the Gulf War illnesses. A chronic multi-symptom illness affecting 25 to 35% of Gulf War veterans. There's also a link to the exposures such as pesticides, pyridamagene, bromine pills, oil wells, fire smoke, nerve agents, and depleted uranium and environmental particles. So when you look at some of the illnesses that you are experiencing, you have to consider these things right here, right? So go back to where you were, what you experienced, how you were feeling, you know, and note those things, but make sure you also have to have a diagnosis. It is important. Okay. The VA recognizes the following as Gulf War presumptive: chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, gastrointestinal disorders, meaning like IBS and dyspepsia, undiagnosed illnesses such as headaches, joint pain, sleep disturbances, and cognitive issues. Also, respiratory symptoms also play a part in it. When we look at cognitive issues, we talk about like headaches, trouble concentrating, sleep problems, or mood problems such as you're irritable or you're depressed constantly. Then you're feeling unusually fatigued, or you even after you exercise, you still feel like really fatigued. Gastrointestinal is IBS, such as nausea and cramping. Remember, Natural just said that GERD is not included in there. And I know a lot of veterans always be like trying to get GERD in there with the Gulf War illnesses. Look at how much your joint pain, the muscles that you're experiencing, the pain that you're experiencing in your joints. Respiratory, like FF just said, the coughing and the wheezing, along with the rashes in your skin, right? So you have to pay pay attention to what your body is going through in that time, and then try to connect it to where you were deployed. Anything, ladies, on that? Before we get into how the PACT Act differs from the Gulf War.
You covered it. Thank you.
All right. So how the PACT Act differs from the Gulf War. So I decided to come up with a little thing so you guys can like screenshot it probably and go back to, you know, your claims and try to figure out like how does it differ and how does it apply to me? So the Gulf War, it focuses on undiagnosed and medically unexplained chronic illnesses. This applies to veterans who served in 1990 to present Gulf War regions. Now let's look at PACT Act and their presumptive. This focuses on specific diagnosed conditions like linked to toxic exposure. Okay, this is able to apply a broader range of the eras, meaning Vietnam, post 9/11, etc. When you look at the PACT Act, they decided to add new cancers and respiratory diseases that was not previously covered before. So there's an overlap between the Gulf War and the PACT Act. Many Gulf War veterans also qualify for PACT Act, and that's what Natural was just talking about, how sometimes if they don't get it over here, then you can go ahead, as for asthma, they'll just go ahead and put it with the burn pits, right? So it depends. Both framework aim to reduce the burden of proof. So there's a difference between the Gulf War presumptive and the PACT Act presumptive. And I want you guys to really get this, because we often get the question of like, is it Gulf War? Is it PACT Act? The Gulf War, remember, it focuses on undiagnosed and medically unexplained illnesses, and it's from 1990 all the way to the present Gulf War region. The PACT Act is focused on broader areas, which is Vietnam, post 9/11, etc. But the PACT Act has included cancers and respiratory diseases that were not covered before. So I hope you guys are able to understand, you know, how to separate the two. That was my main focus tonight when it comes to the PACT Act and the Gulf War. What you say? It also included peacetime vets, all thanks to the PACT Act. Yes. All right, let's keep going here because we are getting close to the end. So I found this so you guys can understand a little bit about how the Gulf War illnesses work, right? So if you look on the first diagram, the undiagnosed illnesses and signs and symptoms, it goes from the head all the way down to, you know, the muscles and the joints, right? Then you go over to the medically unexplained chronic multi-symptoms, and that also goes from like the fatigue to the fibromyalgia. It talks about the gastrointestinal disorders that we talked about. The next one is the infectious disease. That talks about the malaria, the West Nile virus, and it shows all the different types of illnesses that you would be experiencing if you were in that area, right? the symptoms of the undiagnosed illness and the multi-symptoms are example, but not the extensive list that would have for veterans with the Gulf War illnesses, and can be compensated for with a presumption of being service connected. Remember, you still have to have the diagnosis. Okay. Anything, ladies? Let's see here. Many veterans don't understand that Gulf War presumptive still requires a medical opinion, not a service connection, but if disability is undiagnosed or unexplained etiology. Yeah, muck me.
That's true on some.
Mm-hmm.
On
Yeah,
some
on
conditions, on some, not all, but some.
because the presumptive takes away the need for the nexus,
medical,
depending
yeah.
on what it is. So,
but some conditions have an explained etiology, and that's what sometimes you may have, like say like migraines or something like that. Sometimes the examiners will tell us, yes, it's due to blah 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 Southwest, and then it'll say no, it's not due to Southwest Asia. It is due to a underlying condition, and they'll spell it out for us.
Jason said, I'm curious why if I had lung procedure while active duty and have a foreign object on my lung, the VA rated me 0% for it.
Maybe because if your PFTs, because
Mm-hmm.
you're definitely going to have your PFTs did not show that you warranted a higher percentage, because it goes off of PFTs, which a PFT is a pulmonary function test.
Yeah.
And it based on those percentages, if they did not warrant above a 0%, that's why you got it.
Okay, so let me pull up something because I want you guys to I don't know if the young lady is here, but she had a question that on YouTube under one of the videos that I made last week, and she had a question when it came to the Gulf War, but I can't let me see if I can pull it up really quick. But in the meantime, I want to talk about, before I pull up the question, can I wake up tomorrow after I was deployed to Iraq and say that I have rhinitis and sinusitis and go put in a claim for the PACT Act without a diagnosis? I wake up one day and say, my nose is itchy, everything is just not, I'm not feeling well. I got a whole lot of sinus issues. So I'm going to apply for the PACT Act because I was deployed to Iraq and I think I qualify. Should I put in a claim?
You can't. So here's the thing. Just because you claim it due to the PACT, that's not what we're going to look at first. We're going to, if you were deployed to Southwest Asia, we're going to go with that first, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times the veteran is competent to tell us symptomology, but not to diagnose themselves. So based on the symptomology, and the event was they went to Southwest Asia, we're going to order an exam. Because those things, the symptoms that you're explaining sounds like possible sinusitis or rhinitis. But with rhinitis, a lot of times it comes back like 0% unless you have like 50% obstruction.
Okay.
That's a 10. But yeah, that can be, Now, sometimes things that I don't understand is like when people been out of the service for like 40 years and they're claiming hearing loss due to military noise. But,
so, I found the question and it says, hey, ladies, I started watching your content. We're rated HQ. I am curious. I was in the U.S. Army. I was a 63 Golf, which is fuel and electrical repair, and worked in a mechanic shop and used TCE and benzene degreasers daily when I was at APG, Maryland, and in Germany. I have diagnosis of multiple myeloma cancer, which is in remission, but there's no cure for it. I will also have to permanently be on chemo medication, bone marrow biopsy, and PET scans for the rest of my life. Could I file a claim based on TERA, and would I get granted 100% P&T since there's no cure and permanent treatment? Thanks.
Well,
I don't know. We'd have to see that one, but definitely sounds like it's going to be residuals that you're going to be rated on since it's in remission. But definitely file a claim for that.
Yeah, if your cancer is in remission, regardless as if it's no cure for it, they will, like FF said, it will be definitely some residuals from that, especially taking the chemo drug. It can affect other parts of your body. So it'll be, you'll have cancer as your primary, and then the other things that those drugs or the cancer was affected, like the biopsies and stuff like that, the pain from that, you could get some secondaries from that, but it won't automatically. I don't think automatically would be your cancers are never 100%. Well, if it's terminal,
yes,
they'll keep you on what we call a temp 100. It's never turns.
Yeah, it'd be like watchful waiting or something.
Okay. Somebody asked, how does the VA recognize a diagnosis from a DO versus an MD? Good question.
It's the same to me. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a doctor. They're doctors. A doctor.
Yeah, technically, yeah, they're both doctors. It's just that the DO is probably using things that are more holistic in nature, whereas the MD is more on
medication,
this is science-based
pharmaceutical.
improving. Yeah, and it, not to say your DO isn't going to be relevant. Well, we should be able to tell the difference in their signature and their credentials, but typically that's the only difference. Is the view in which the doctor performs their procedures. One is more holistic in nature, and the other one is, like Natural said. But we won't send you to a DO.
Correct. A question here on TikTok. My hubby has 0% sinusitis at 90% waiting review. Served in Emirates. Can he file for the PACT Act again?
I'm sorry, I was distracted. What did you say?
It says, my hubby has 0% sinusitis at 90% awaiting review. Served in Emirates. Can he file for the PACT Act again?
If he's for sinusitis, you don't have to file for PACT again. All they'll do is put in for an increase for the sinusitis.
Just doing.
But if the husband has something else he's trying to claim, and he feels that it's due to PACT, then yes. But if it's sinusitis is already service connected, just put in for an increase.
So, and I'm glad we're talking about the whole sinusitis and rhinitis. And before we get into that, let's talk about GERD a little bit, because a lot of people on TikTok is like, well, why GERD is not included? Because it's gastrointestinal. Why is GERD not included in the PACT Act? A lot of people think that the GERD came from parts of them breathing in some of the stuff.
It's not. We can ask it due to TERA. We can't ask it due to Gulf War. That's the difference. We can ask it because it's a structural, and that's why it's not looked at under Gulf War, under the Muckneys, but we can ask it under TERA.
And if you have it and it's related to service, just claim it. The presumptive just makes it, and we don't even use it for GERD, but the presumptive as a whole just takes away the need for the link. But if you have any condition that's related to service, just go ahead and claim it. Like, you don't need to have it be presumptive based. There are millions of people connected for GERD that's not presumptive.
A friend was MM in Navy aboard an old ship. Why does the VA keep denying his TERA concession when the rating is listed as highly probable for asbestos exposure? And I think MM is machine mate, I think, because that's what they call it in the Navy.
How does the VA keep denying TERA concession when the rating is listed high? That's a we would
Probably was just MOS exposure alone is probably why that got
and it
denied.
depends on the conditions that they're claiming. But again,
Yes.
some of these questions y'all ask us, we would have to see the case. We can't just we can give you what we think based off of the question, but it's more based on the evidence of record to support the TERA. And when they send, even if they did do it due to a high probability of asbestos, I'm sure that a TERA a TERA medical opinion was requested. The provider or the examiner did not link it to asbestos, depending on the condition.
Any more questions on what we discussed tonight? I hope you guys got clear understanding on the TERA, the PACT Act, the Gulf War, and how it plays a different role in your claim, every single one of your claims. If you put a claim in for secondary, what this says, do the VA request a whole new exam for the original diagnosis?
If you put in a claim for, yes, we have to, because that's a different theory of entitlement. And if we don't, and you file a HLR, that will be called a duty to assist error, a DTA.
Yeah, like it should be pretty smooth. Like if you're already connected for the, let's just say, hypertension, and then you say maybe you had some other condition secondary from that, like we won't go and redo your hypertension. Like that's going to stay put. But we are going to get the opinion as to, hey, is this possibly secondary to the hypertension? I don't know if that's what you meant.
Correct. Yeah. So if he was denied for PACT Act, now he can file because sinus is presumptive.
Wait, I thought she said they were service connected for sinus.
Yeah, I thought it was 0% service connected. So yeah, it's very confusing now. So I'm not sure. Let's see. I want to thank you, ladies, for the information. Everything helps me greatly. I know Fort McClellan is a tough one. Thanks again. Yeah. Fort McClellan, guys, when the VA is doing research, nothing happens overnight, right? Nothing happens overnight. What was the whole, was it the earplugs? What was that? Which one was that? The whole the hearing. I don't know which, or Fort Bragg. Was it Fort Bragg? The hearing situation with the earplugs and veterans.
Oh, the 3M?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the 3M thing.
Yeah, the 3M earplugs thing. A lot of veterans really was confused about the whole 3M thing, and they didn't understand that if you got the lawsuit money, you can't come to the VA and file and says, hey, my hearing has been affected from the Fort Bragg, the situation. So that's double dipping. That's double dipping because the company is suing the government, and then the government is turned around and you're asking the government to pay you. You're double dipping. I'm back. So I went to the VA. I submitted a secondary condition for ED. Okay. This was an amazing chat tonight. I'm grateful for you ladies for taking time for us veterans. Yeah, I want you guys to understand the concept between it, because every time we are here, naturally be like, no, that's not it. That's something else totally different. And so tonight I wanted to, like, this is a space of education. And if you don't understand, this is the spot where you ask the questions and we get the real answers from the people who do this every single day, right? They do this, they live this, they breathe this, they talk about it, they know what it is, they experience all types of scenarios day to day. So there's, like they tell you, there's no two claims that are going to be the same, right? So don't compare what your friend had to what you had, because it's not going to be the same thing. It's not going to be the same thing, because somebody might have asthma in a different, their PFT may be different from what your PFT is. So their rating is going to be different based off of their PFT. So you can't compare what you are experiencing with somebody else. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that veterans are having, right? If you experience something and my buddy experienced something, well, because he has or she has this, I'm going to go ahead and file for this. It doesn't work that way.
Well, let me say this. If you had anything that pre-existed prior to the military, some people had asthma as a child, some people had bronchitis, some people had sinusitis and rhinitis before they entered into the military. Some people had acid reflux. If it's noted anywhere on your entrance exam or somewhere within your service treatment records, and you had toxic exposure or Gulf War, there is going to be a aggravation exam asked for first.
I got somebody on TikTok that's asking, so can I submit MH due to ED and inability to rise? Is that
mental health due to ED? What was the ED grant? Is the ED service connected?
Yeah, I would say the ED service connected. So they want to do secondary mental health.
So ED typically is secondary to something else, unless you had it in service.
Yes, he said it's rated 0%, the ED. So he wants to connect mental health to it.
But
I mean, that probably made him sad. He's probably depressed.
What is the ED? Was the ED granted secondary to something, or it was a standalone?
Was the ED standalone, Victor, or rated something with something else? While we wait for Victor, does the VA recognize a diagnosis from a neuropath doctor? It was standalone, the ED.
So yeah, then he can definitely request a secondary mental health due to that. I'm sure that would be kind of, make you sad.
Because I'm depressed thinking about it, and it's not even mine.
And not with you tonight. Does the VA recognize a diagnosis from a neuropath doctor? It's a doctor, right? Just because
is that like a holistic doctor?
Yeah, I thought it was a holistic doctor.
Yes, on that same path, kind of like the DO.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll still, look at it, because again, your overall evidence of record may reflect that, hey, something is going on here, and we'll probably send out for another exam or something to that effect.
Lord, what we got going on here, Jack of all trades? Are you trying to take us through a medical evidence class? Because look at this.
I know what it all is.
Maybe y'all not about to take me through there tonight.
So he service connected to rhinitis through eustachian tube dysfunction. He had a surgery for his tympanic, and now he has hearing problem, but wasn't able to put it into a residual of this vertigo. So typically all that, even if you get diagnosed with vertigo, it's gonna get stuck with that. They're gonna group it all together, probably on the BPV, because unless the vertigo will yield you a higher percentage, so then it will move rhinitis. It will probably put the eustachian tube dysfunction and all that together with but otherwise the dizziness will become a part of that diagnosis, the vertigo.
Yeah, they might end up changing it to, yeah, like you said, the vertigo might get a higher rating that way.
Yeah.
And why you say that? Somebody just asked, can vertigo be rated standalone?
Yes.
If you have hearing loss and tinnitus, they will take, if BPV or Mariners is diagnosed, and they will, if you have hearing loss and tinnitus, they will group them all together. And typically it's a higher percentage if you have Mariners. And they will take the 10% and they will take the whatever. Hearing loss is typically like a 0 unless you have like really, really bad speech recognition, or, your hearing is bad. But typically they put it together. They rate it together if you have those, if it's a symptom on the vertigo.
All right, ladies. Any more questions, guys? Because this was great tonight. This was really great.
He come with them big words. Are you an MD? Because you come with,
you not about to take my throat out tonight. I cannot.
Yeah, they definitely will group those together, like Natural said, because you have to remember we can't give you separate ratings for the same part.
0.
Yeah, so they'll probably, like FF just started to say, if they do grant the vertigo, and depending on which way they go, if they do BPV or they give you Mariners, and they will group all of that together.
Yep, like you have to have it separately. It can't be caused by something else. You can get them separate, but if it overlaps, they're going to link it. So sometimes, you may have your dizziness with tinnitus. You just have to be mindful of how you request the claim in the order in which you did it. And it looks like your rhinitis, you use that to connect the others, if I read it correctly.
Yeah, he said
so you have to be kind of mindful when you do that.
Right. Because the reason they rate it together is because it's called pyramiding, because usually the doctors cannot delineate between the symptoms. So they can't say, well, his rhinitis is causing him to have, vertigo, or his ear condition is causing him to. So they will say it's impossible, or it's not, we can't, definitively say that it's a separate from this or separate from that.
Yeah, I think had he not linked it that way, because rhinitis is not typically linked to vertigo, but because of the way that you did your connection, you caused all of it to go together.
Yeah, it's secondary, to your rhinitis. Yeah. So they're essentially saying the rhinitis is causing your ear problem.
Yeah, you went fancy there too, but you got to connect it.
Real fancy. Real fancy. Doctor type fancy. Somebody is asking, is there a system that you guys use when it comes to secondaries that you know what is connected to what, and can that be shared?
We don't have no system. We don't have no genie in a bottle. We don't have no crystal ball. It's you put in the claim, we send for a medical opinion. If the examiner says yes and the evidence supports it, you get it. If the evidence does not support it, do I have cheat sheets that I have on my own that I use to kind of keep a track of what I've seen? And I do that only to help the vet, because sometimes I have where the examiner will be like, oh no, this is no nexus, there's no medical literature to support blah blah blah. And when they say that, I pull out my cheat sheet and send it back and say, hello.
Right, here we go.
So if I went to the emergency room in service for kidney stones and the VA had to blast a kidney stone, it was too big to pass, will it still be rated 0?
Probably. You're gonna have to, it's gonna have to have some residuals, Jason. It's gonna, you're gonna have to have some type of residual from the kidney stones. The kidney stones themselves is basically a 0. So you're gonna have to start looking at, like, maybe if it impacts your voiding dysfunction, if you have ED or something that's something from the kidneys, you developed maybe hypertension, something like that. You're gonna have to start looking at secondaries, because kidney stones, now if you end up having surgery, then yeah, you can ask for like a temp 100 based on convalescent, but other than that, you're gonna have to start looking at secondary for that.
Yeah.
What you think, FF?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's going to have to, unfortunately, take something else like an attack or like some type of chronic pain, just something. And again, the higher the rating for this one, unfortunately, the more it's going to hurt you, because at some point you could get a higher rating, like if the catheter was messed up, or you had to take some type of drug therapy. Just this one just hurts. Like there's no easy way to
yeah,
get
if he gets
rating.
a catheter, if he has a catheter, then yeah, he'll start getting, if you have to wear a catheter, which yikes, but yeah, then you'll start getting a higher percentage.
This one doesn't have a non-painful way of being increased.
I have a question here on TDIU. I'm filing for TDIU. How do I determine a date I couldn't work if I've had 9 jobs in the past 2 years due to mental health?
You go off your last date, your last time you worked, whatever, even if it's the year. You go off the last
on the 9th
one.
job.
Yeah. The 9th job. Do deny secondary on urinary frequency to hypertension meds. CMP states there's no link between the urinary incontinence and hypertension.
Ooh, well, I don't know. I don't agree. I've seen it connected, but you could say the medications, because sometimes people are on diuretics due to hypertension.
To use the restroom a lot. Yeah. I mean, I see the connection here.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you might get some that say we can change the medication. Is that really what you want them to do?
But I've seen this connected. So, I mean, I tell you, it's like rolling the dice. Like you go into
Pick a
casino and you choose the right machine and ching, ching, ching. That's kind of how it is sometimes with some of these conditions.
Well, I have a very unique question here. Do you think that if there were more of a scripting structural rating guidance, would it be a less complicated system, or do you think it will be more complicated? And when I say scripting, I'm meaning that you get a claim, you put it whatever the veteran's experiencing, and it spits out exactly what you guys should have, the guidance, right? And everybody's using that same thing, and it's more structural. Would you feel like it's better or it's worse?
I kind of look at it like the Supreme Court, right? Like we have these different judges, and you have some that stick to the letter of the law. You have some that are very conservative, and then you have some that are liberal. I'd like to think that's how we operate at the BBA. Depending on the rating you get. Yes, sometimes you might be like, well, they probably could have went this way, but it's, in my view, it's supposed to reflect the environment that we're in. So if we have everybody doing the same thing, I don't think that's an accurate reflection. But again, I'm biased just because of my background. I like to go law forward. So it just, I don't know. I like it the way that it is, because we get to use the evidence you see. You can say, you know what? I can apply benefit of the doubt. I can look at this and make a decision that way, like from a holistic kind of view.
Yes.
And then you have, you know, other raters that are like, no, this isn't here. And that's fine. You know, that's the view that they're able to take. But I don't know. That's just my view. What do you think, Natural?
I totally get it. I see where you're coming from, and I totally agree. What say you, Natural? Would you feel like a more scripted, developed claim situation would be better for you, or do you like it where you're able to, bend here, curve here, straight here? You're open.
Well, at first I was gonna say I plead the fifth, but I'm gonna say that if it's in the so when they say the rate, it's down, it's to the rater's
discretion.
Every rater is not I'm trying to be nice. Let's see. Every rater is not going to see things as if I would see things, because I see ratings sometimes and I'll be like, who did this? And I'll go look. So to me, basically, the M21 was given to us as the law, right? Like FF was saying. If I can find in the manual where I can support a grant, because there's a lot of times where we want to grant, but the law binds us into what we can do and what we can't do, even if we want to bend one way or the other. So in favor of the vet, do I stretch some of these medical opinions that I be asking for? Yep. If I find you complain one time, I'm asking for it. There's other raters that will not do that. There's other raters that just be like, oh no, that's acute. They don't answer. But that's why we're starting to get a lot of DTAs, because they did not ask for it when the evidence was there. So I think that when you look at it, the M21 is across the board. I think that it has to do with more of how the training went when the person came in, and how much that the raters ask for guidance. Because like I said, the first couple years when you're rating, it's excruciating. It's hard. It's challenging, right? And then we have laws that change daily, right? So just when you think you've gotten everything you need, to know, okay, yeah, this applies, they'll throw a monkey wrench. And then like now, if we get a back DBQ or any musculoskeletal and it doesn't include the Ingram language, the questions they ask, we have to send it back.
Oh wow.
So we can't even rate it if the Ingram information is not completed. So it's like
get them to answer the questions.
What'd you say?
Because I just feel like that takes too long. So I'll just call the examiner, say, hey, you forgot to answer these questions. I'll send you an email.
Nobody.
I know you're not calling, Natural. I know.
I ain't calling nobody. I ain't great. Listen, we got 164,000.
Oh, don't talk about the number, please.
29,400 million. I ain't got time to be calling nobody, but the thing is, like, something, I do when the veterans, I will call the veteran, like, when I'm not sure, like, people just put, like, arthritis. That's not a claim. I mean, that's a claim, but what part of your body is this affecting? Yeah. Because that determines on what kind of exam you get. You can't rate something like that. But I just think that the type of training, depending on the RO the type of training that you receive and the continuous training, because this job is a continuous learning process. I don't care how many years you've been doing it, you always learn something, because like we say, every case is not the same, and every law, the law I applied to the last case I just finalized, it's not going to be something I could use for the next, but it's just staying abreast as best you can. We're human, you know, but sometimes this is why I'm glad we have this platform, because it's debunking a whole lot of misinformation for veterans, and it's stopping them from getting denied a lot, because now they're trying to understand the process more and which way to go versus just putting in claims. Like, I hate literally rating someone and every single thing they claim is denied. It's like denied. And to me, it's just like when they get that letter, you're like,
it's the most thing ever. Yeah.
And so I think, and the people who are filing the claims for them are helping them. And I'm like, if they would just tell them the truth in the beginning, it would save a whole lot of, you know.
That's the problem that I've been running into a lot, especially when some veterans are not eligible for benefits. For instance, I had a guy a few weeks ago. He paid a claim shark company thousands of dollars, and they filed the claim. The VA wrote back and said that he was not eligible for benefits, and they held on to his money, saying that they're working on something behind the scenes so he can get his claims approved. To this day, he has not got any kind of recourse. He can't get benefits based on his discharge, which it was a horrible discharge. And these people are holding on to his money, telling him that they're working on something behind the scenes to get him approved.
So they got his money already?
Yeah, he paid up front.
Oh, they're not giving him his refund.
Yeah.
So when a veteran gets discharged on anything, when it's really dishonorable, I don't care what you work on, unless you have some evidence to overturn and get that upgraded, he or she's not gonna get benefits. If you're barred from VA benefits, unless you get that overturned, you're not going to get. I don't know what they could be working on, possibly.
Correct. But that's the question. What are you working on? And he talked to them on the phone plenty of occasions, like, guys, I realize that you can't, because I was very honest and frank with them. We're going to have to do a discharge upgrade. We need medical evidence. We need letters. We need a couple of things to get this upgraded before you can get any benefits.
Right. And honestly, if they do that prior to filing, it would probably save them a little bit of trouble. And to be honest, the people that are paying, I don't know if they're just frustrated or they don't know what to do to file a claim, but it's fairly easy. All you have to do is, it starts with your treatment, your service treatment records, and looking in that, and you have current treatment and diagnosis. You can do anything that someone's charging you a mortgage payment for or over a mortgage payment. They're not doing anything different than you are doing. You can do yourself.
Yeah. Veterans are so shocked when we sit on Zoom together and file their claims. They was like, that's it? Yeah, that's it. What are you looking for more? There's nothing else to it. You sit there, you answer 5 to 10 questions, you hit yes or no, you click the drop-down box, you put your provider and your VA information in there, you upload your lay statements, and if you have medical documentation, and that's it. And they are usually blown away by the fact that it only took 20 minutes to do it. So you're paying somebody thousands of dollars to say, I'm gonna file your claim. But guess what they do? They put it in an envelope. They fill out the form, put it in an envelope. You still have to sign it, and then you have to take it to the post office to mail it.
Yeah. Well, then you have, the old school veterans. They're not computer savvy like that, and so that's why you can actually get, we have where you can fax and mail and stuff. So the old school veterans, they will mail, but I hate to see people pay all this money and these people are taking their money and they're not doing anything. They can't. There's no rhyme or reason why they tell you like, oh, I can take you from this, I can do this, I can do that. They can't take you from 0 to 100. Yeah. What are they doing? Filling out some paperwork for you? Your evidence is what take you from that to that.
Yeah, definitely. So this is why I say you got to pay attention. You have to pay attention. Do not pay for anything without talking. Do some Google reviews. Start doing a little bit of research, because what I understand is y'all don't like to Google. And Google University is free. But can't the type of discharge be upgraded? Yes, the discharge could be upgraded, but it has to be upgraded before filing for benefits. The company did not pay attention to the discharge and told him that he can get benefits. And the VA wrote back and said, not happening.
Yeah, and this is something that the veteran can do themselves. I mean, you can ask for help, but this isn't a paid service. You don't, for the discharge upgrade, that's not a paid service.
It's a wait, but it's not nothing that's complicated. You fill out the form, you get the evidence, you have to, it takes some time and it takes a little research, and you have to have the right documentation, but you're pretty much submitting your packet and just waiting for a decision.
Yeah.
What you say? I want to submit DBQs with me 3 TERA claims, but VHA is no help. What?
VHA don't typically help with the claims process, but if you're receiving treatment for any of those things that you mentioned, that is evidence. But you can look for a local VSO or claims agent, or Hervets takes consultations.
You want to submit your DBQs? Do you already have a provider that filled out your DBQs? Because make sure that you guys, remember FF told you guys, make sure that your DBQs are filled out entirely. Okay, that there are no mistakes on there, because if they are, it's not going to go well.
Ooh, child, we need to do one on.
We need to do a live on DBQs.
Oh, that's a good one.
On private DBQs, because they be sending me.
All right, let me write that down.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
Private DBQ?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because sometimes I think maybe just because the veteran may not fully understand what needs to be on the DBQ, they'll, go ahead and pay for the service, but you need to review it to make sure it's accurate, that it's signed, it reflects what's in the record before they get these.
Will not do. No. A VHA doctor will not do a DBQ, because that's a conflict, because they can do a VA examination.
OTC, this is not going to work. This is
that's not a VA. They can do your form for aid in attendance, but they will not complete a DBQ. They will not.
Some of them will write you a note. You can request your SOAP notes. Like, it doesn't have to be a DBQ for us to consider it evidence from the doctor.
Yes.
Well, let me say.
Go ahead.
No,
you'll have to find another provider for your DBQs, because your VHA doctor, they sign a conflict of interest statement that they are not. They won't be able to do it.
Yeah, they won't.
Yeah.
But
just don't ask for a DBQ. Just ask for what's going on, what you're being treated for, what you're being seen for. You don't need the DBQ.
Somebody said, estimate what percentage of private DBQs you guys see coming in. Is it a lot or more on the rare side?
A lot.
Kind of depends. It's definitely a lot for the condition that natural hates. But yes, it's always a lot for those, but
and the mental.
In either case, go ahead.
And the mental just be like out. Listen, let me help y'all. If you pay
Yes,
somebody,
that's good for those notes. I'm sorry, somebody said their VHA. That's
yeah.
great for the notes. Go ahead.
If you pay someone for a mental exam and you've never filed a claim with the VA and you submit that private DBQ, what you have done is just donated money. Because no. And the mental health, if you are service connected for it and you submit a private DBQ and that DBQ shows that you are warranted 100% and your evidence of record doesn't support that 100%, you're going to an exam if you land the naturals queue.
Sending me tonight. So we are definitely going to do a live on private DBQ. So go ahead, FF.
No, I mean, natural's right. Like it has to accurately reflect the evidence of record. And I think sometimes because, you're paying for a service, right? So yes, you want the most bang for your buck, but it works to your disadvantage if your evidence doesn't match what you say is going on right now. And can there be events that cause, a sudden increase? Absolutely. Maybe something traumatic happened, but generally speaking, what you're going through is reflected in stages. So you need to make sure your evidence encompasses that instead of just one visit, whereas you were normally 50, now you met with provider J, and now you're at 100%, and there's nothing in the record that shows, okay, his medicine's increasing, these things are getting worse. We don't have any evidence to support the new 100 that Dr. J gave you. So it makes it look like it's not as credible. I hope that makes sense.
What's that doctor name? Frederick.
Oh, no, Mr. Nolan.
Y'all stop giving him stop giving him your money.
Mine did one for aid and attendance. You better keep that quiet.
No, they can do aid and attendance.
Oh, aid and attendance. Oh, aid and attendance.
Yeah, they can do the 2680s. Those are fine. It's just a DBQ, but Dr. Nolan be sending me with his DBQs, honey.
Listen, I can't wait for the day. And you know what? Fred Nolan is a psychiatrist that's been around for a very long time, since the 1970s, and has been writing Nexus letters for veterans since Adam and Eve was alive. And now he's writing letters around the circus. Okay.
Every DBQ that I've seen from the veteran is 100%. It don't matter. The dog ran away with the spoon. The mailman came and took the dog. I mean, it just be like so left field.
Listen, you know what I'm gonna do? My clients, they send me some of the Nexus letters that they paid for. I'm going to redact their information, and I'm going to do a live on Nexus letters at the circus.
Get a Nexus letter for you. If you have medical evidence from your provider that you're being treated for, that's the Nexus. Don't pay for no Nexus. If your current treatment records will show your Nexus.
Yes. No, Jason, she is just the sweetest ever.
I am tough. No, I'm just, I'll be joking a lot, but I mean, well, I try. I'm not the raider that is gonna try to make you feel all warm and fuzzy over stuff. I tell you the truth, because it's people out here to tell you a dream. If I see that it's not gonna work, I will tell you up front, like, no, that ain't gonna work. If the evidence doesn't support that.
Yeah.
And so it's better to tell a person that if you go to a private, let's look at it like this. When you go pay for a private DBQ, you've never seen this provider ever in life. And you go to them and you tell them your story. They don't have no evidence, because if you don't submit any evidence for them to review, they're just going to interview you. And you're going to tell them your symptoms or whatever. 90% of the DBQs I get when it comes to mental, they all tell me the veteran is 100% mental. All of them. You go look at the VAMC records and they're like, oh, I'm fine. The medication is working well. Da, da, da. I understand that mental health waxes and wanes. You have your good days, you have your bad days. But you're not going to tell me a person you saw one time just determined you're 100% incapable, but then tell me you can handle your finances, but you got memory loss, you got disorientation in time, you don't remember your mama name, your daddy name, your dog name. No way. No way.
Yeah.
But you can handle your finances.
I think they forget that.
She's right. She's definitely right. You have to do it right all the way across the board. And I think
they do.
When the veteran is like thinking about it, they're not thinking about it all the way through, because when you go about saying that you're not able to do all these things, then you're not able to handle your finances, and you're not really able to do anything. You lose the right to, arms, you lose a lot of things. So in the thought process of it, you're thinking like, yeah, this is going to be 100% and I'm going to be okay. But it has effects with it.
It does. And sometimes, like you said, they do forget. And if this is, like a new claim, right? Like I always try to have the same point of view. Because if this is your first time filing a claim, the doctor that we're going to send you to for your mental health has the same standing as far as the professional background of the one that you may select. But the advantage is the one we send you to, we know exactly what they have because we sent it over. Yeah. Now, if you're selecting a private examiner and they have your entire file, to me, I look at it the same way, because I'm sending you to a stranger. The other one is also a stranger. So they're on the same playing field. The only thing that changes is the evidence. I know for sure this VA doctor that I've sent you to has your C file. They see any other private records. I know they have it, and you didn't pay for it. So that one looks better. But if you do go to a private doctor, and this is the first time, I weigh them evenly, because I wouldn't discredit the VA doctor. So I'm not going to discredit the private doctor unless the evidence is amiss. Other than that, I'm going to weigh them evenly.
I agree with that. But like she said, if the evidence is not there to support that 100% grant, I'm not going to accept the DBQ. And if it's a mental health, it's prohibited to be done by ACE anyway. It's in the manual.
Yes. And imagine paying a doctor to fill out a DBQ and they check the box and say, I have not reviewed the veteran's records.
Oh, that's definitely not gonna. I'm not gonna do
those.
And how many of that do you guys see?
Here lately, it's been a lot more. I'm not sure what's happening. It's like they're getting, I don't want to say sloppy, but they aren't paying attention. And unfortunately, the veteran doesn't check behind them for some reason.
They'll just submit it, and then they'll tell us, I'm not going to a VA exam to decide my claim, but
because they're instructed to do that, right? I've seen some claim sharks that instruct their clients that when they call you to say do a CMP examination, say, I'm not doing it.
Oh yeah, they say it.
They say it, big and bold. No, I'm not doing it. And they're not understanding that they're affecting their own claim, because the claim shark already got their coinage, right?
You're gonna get us.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a CMP evaluation from me.
Yeah, you have to check.
Yeah. They gotta check it. I mean, you check your light bill. Oh, it's $400. You check and you might call and say, oh, it's normally $300. but then we're paying, $1,500, $2,000, and we aren't looking behind it before we submit it, it's still a paid for item. Like you still need to check it.
Shells, we understand that they don't have to, but then the rater also gets to decide if they say they're not going to, and if they don't have all the medical evidence that's needed, then that's an automatic denial.
They don't have to go to the exams at all.
That's correct. But if you submit a DBQ that the doctor say that you should be rated at 100%, and the doctor, he checked the box saying that you meet these qualifications, but he also checked the box to say that he did not review your medical records.
Yeah, that's a CNC. So whatever it is you have.
Yeah, you saying that I meet these qualifications. I don't know you as a person. You're not my patient. I'm paying you, or my attorney or whatever sent me over here for you to do a DBQ. You don't know me. Then you check the box and say you didn't review my records, but then you actually say that I meet all these qualifications.
You meet this criteria based off of the interview from the veteran, and which probably the veteran's already been prepped to say whatever symptom is that he or she can get that's going to make them 100%. That stuff has to come back, and the rater has to review the evidence in its entirety, not just the DBQ. Evidence in its entirety. If we get
it's not DBQ, opinion based, it's evidence based.
It's not evidence based. It's evidence based. And then if you get one that's that, and the veteran hasn't been anywhere for any type of mental health treatment, or the VAMC, he hasn't been seen for 5-6 years. Because if you are, in my opinion, that bad off, you're going to seek some type of help for it. You was competent enough to go get a DBQ. Why not go take yourself to the doctor and get some type of counseling for your problems? But you don't have to go. But you're going to deal with whatever we have evidence of record, and typically we're going to confirm and continue whatever evaluation you're at the time. And we'll say we acknowledge your we acknowledge.
Hey RT, you're doing your big one over there.
We're gonna acknowledge your private DBQ, but we're gonna also explain to you why we did not accept that private DBQ.
Yeah, we're gonna say it's insufficient for rating purposes, but we'll tell you we got it.
Yep.
So I mean, decide whatever you want to do, because as we know, right? Veterans are going to do whatever they're going to do. And nobody can change your mind, and you are an adult and you can decide whatever you want to do. But at the same time, while you are making a decision to do something, make a conscious decision and think it all the way through. I see a thought yesterday: before making a decision, consider the end result, right? So that's one of the things that we have to also put into play, right? When you make the decision to file the claim, and you make the decision to go get a nexus, and you make the decision to get a DBQ and all that type of stuff, you also have to make the decision you have to consider the end result. And the end result might not always be the result that you're expecting based on your actions.
Right. And then the veteran will call and say, oh, I submitted a fully developed claim and y'all didn't consider it. We did consider it. Mm-hmm. We told you, hey, you need to go to an exam. You said no.
So, and guys, I see something here about stay away from insomnia, sleep disturbance. We are going to do a live on sleep apnea versus insomnia, right? And the difference
not the same.
Yes.
It's not the same. Insomnia, it's not the same. Well, sometimes people claim insomnia and then they go to the exam and the examiner would diagnose them with it'll be like major depressive disorder or GAD with insomnia disorder. So I ain't going to say completely stay away from it.
Is good. I read a few of his.
Yeah. Dr. He's really good. Yeah.
I read a couple. Yeah, I've read a few.
Yeah, he's very thorough. Like
that other one.
Freddie Fred. Man,
he need a cease and desist.
You know what, guys? He's been doing it for a long time. Like, I remember getting out the military, and a lot of people be like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting a letter from Dr. Nolan," and I used to be like, "Who in the world is Dr. Nolan? Like, who is this guy?" And then I finally did a little bit of research on him, and I know that he has been prominent in the veteran community when it comes to writing DBQs. I mean, Nexus letters for cease and desist. Allegedly. So a lot of veterans used him over the years, and I think he still is writing letters at this point. But you know, after a while, if you've been an MD for a long time, you're getting, you know, much up there in age, and you're not as sharp as you was, you know, before. Those are things that you have to also consider, you know. So if the veteran wants to pay, whoever they wants to pay, they are able to. I think there's a lot of light now on, you know, claim sharks, what's happening, how they're going about making their money, and if they still decide to make that decision, then it's on them, right?
Let me be clear on this.
Money. They don't need to though, but it's their money.
Be clear on this. Everybody is responsible for how their case goes. It starts with the veteran, and then it comes to the VBA, and then we adjudicate it based on the evidence, and it goes to the rating board. A lot of people want to blame the raters and stuff like that, but they don't look at, if the evidence is not there, a grant cannot occur. So again, it all starts with the person who is filing the claim, which is the veteran. Educate yourself on your claim. Don't listen to everybody else. Educate yourself. It starts with getting your service treatment records and reviewing them yourself, and then going the route of filing a claim. Don't just be pulling. Don't just be like when we go to the store and we buy lottery tickets hoping we're going to win the Mega Millions or the Powerball. We're not going to get it. That's not going to get it. And then you get frustrated and want to blame, oh, the examiner, it's the rater, it's this. No, it's you.
Take accountability for your actions. And that's one of the biggest things. And this is why I created this space as well. You know, we're so quick to blame somebody else, but it's time that we take an accountability, you know, for our actions. It starts with us. And remember, I talk about it all the time. Do your research before filing a claim, because you guys want a microwavable claim so bad, and it's not going to lapse, right? A microwavable meal is hot really quick, and then it gets cold really fast. It's microwavable. If you take your time, you can do it. It's doable. Yes, there are some instances where it can become a little bit complicated, right? It can get a little complicated, and you might need the assistance of somebody else, but you have to put some work in, okay? I get consultations of people who say, do you have your medical records? Yeah, they're in the garage, but then they upload up to 1,000 pages for me to review to find out what they should file. They leave it in the palm of my hand. Like, and this is your records that's been in the garage, right? So I really, really, really want to encourage you guys, take the time to research. Take the time to sit down and go through your records. Set a timer for 10 minutes a day and do that instead of scrolling on TikTok or YouTube. It's beneficial to you. Yeah. What you say?
And if you're 100%, stop coming to see us, because guys, y'all are chasing pennies. You already got the golden ticket. This week alone, I took 15 people from 100%. 15. Some of them was granted it in error, but some of them was just they were trying to get an increase. And here's the thing: if you're 100%, you get no back pay. You get additional money. You don't get back pay. So what do y'all? I'm not understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the time, use it well. And so you have to, if you're 100% and you're going back in the queue because your elbow is hurting and you get a reduction proposal, that's on you. It's not anybody else's fault, right? Time for us to take an accountability. Before I go, I saw something.
Elbow.
Your elbow. I'm just going to use something. I saw something with, these are the kind of things that go around social media. I saw something that says, I'm a social worker at the VA. 3 of the veterans I work with received letters this month that their service connection was being reduced. All PTSD, all 100%, all under the age of 50. What's going on? All were reduced to 70 for PTSD. None requested new evaluations or claimed for anything. Something is up. They're working against us. My contact at the VBA said one of the veterans was reduced because their MH provider stated their conditions had approved. This is garbage. Because they don't just wake up today and say, I'm going to go pick Sally Sue and take her stuff away.
We do not, unless sometimes though we'll get additional evidence, like if say like a BDD claim and we get additional service treatment records, they'll assess what we call a 699, which is a records review, and they'll have us review the information that came in, and to ensure that there's something, like if it was something denied and we get new evidence, we can potentially go back and grant it based off the evidence that we didn't have a record at the time. But typically, if there's a reduction, the veteran had to come back. We are too busy.
Correct.
Let me say
this. Behind from 12 years ago or something. I don't know.
Not we. The VBA is behind on processing claims. We work every day. The VBA is behind because people come back every day. You're already 100% and you come knocking on the door, right? And then you get mad when you get the letter, we're proposing to reduce. Or we find it was granted in error and we're proposing to sever it. Or, effective date was on something. It is not, we don't come looking.
Yeah.
I've never been told, hey, Natural, go in there in the queue, national work, and pick out a random person and reduce them.
It's too much going on.
Sending me tonight. I just wanted to speak about that because I get a lot of people who, they took my stuff and I didn't do nothing. And I said, so you're trying to tell me that they just wake up today and chose you?
No, we don't have time to choose anything. It just keeps coming.
Yeah. And when I read these claims, I'll be like, why?
Yeah, if you have a routine future for like a cancer or something and that shows improvement, then yes, it's gonna send that out. But
or you have a hospitalization, the VHA will send what we call a 310 of a hospitalization, and then we can review your records, and that's for a potential like I was gonna say para 30, para 29, like they will know what that is. A hospitalization, they give like a temp 100 type of thing. Then that's not you guys, that's somebody trigger. Or if you go and you have an episode and your provider will write to the VA saying, hey, we need this veteran is not competent to handle his or her affairs, then yes, that will trigger us to do something.
Yes. But they don't wake up and choose violence. They don't.
We don't have time. It's so many. They're everywhere.
Somebody wants to know, does the VA still use RFE except for cancer?
No, only thing I see RFEs is cancer. They
do one when they first get out for mental health. If they have mental health, I think it's 6 months after.
Yeah, it is, but I don't like that. I just take it off. I just take it off. I'm not getting ready to put no routine feature on nobody. They just got out. You ain't even giving them time to breathe. 6 months later, you want me to take no.
Yeah. What do you mean there should be a warning? It's been a warning sign. What do you want me to do? I can't.
It said there should be a warning banner telling vets if you're 100% looking to submit another claim.
Maybe I should create a banner, huh? RT, is that what you're saying? You're trying to tell me?
Man,
is that what you're saying, RT? You know I'm not.
We're giving them warnings every day. They don't listen.
Teach me, RT. We need a class. You need to spend some time with me so I can create a banner, RT.
I need that little voice RT has.
I know. RT, how I get
I think they're trying to get earlier or back pay, like you were saying earlier, Natural, but
that back pay be sending me. They be like, oh, I was denied and y'all didn't go back and give me my back pay. In my calculation, y'all owe me blah blah blah. I just be sitting there and looking like, and then I'll go back and find something wrong. Not that I was looking, but you said we didn't do this, so I'll go find it and then I'll send you the little letter. Now you're not gonna get no money, but you're getting ready to lose some money because leave us alone.
Yeah,
you got to make sure those dates that you're asking for are correct, because again, we're human. If we get it wrong, we'll definitely fix it, but just make sure it's, not to say your elbow isn't important, because the young lady that was on here, was that Wednesday?
When there was locked in.
Yeah. So again, some of these things can be a detriment, and I understand, but if whatever it is you're asking for isn't going to cause, like, if it's not, diabetes, hypertension, some type of heart disease, just think it through before you ask for it to be evaluated again, because you do run the risk of having your file looked at again, and maybe something was done improperly, and now that someone else is looking at it, they have to address it. So just make sure it's valid.
Because even if we want to not address it, if that claim that we do get pulled and the QR team finds that we should have proposed to do something, that is an error on the rater, and then we have to go back and do it anyway. So
I had to call a Q on a Q today.
I called Q's on droves.
On a Q on a Q. Wow.
Oh my gosh, it's exhausting.
Yeah. So you guys, and this is why sometimes I want you guys to listen to the veteran committee hearings. You see where this is going, what's happening, how they're trying to save money, how they're trying to do all this. Every time a veteran is reduced, you don't think of being happy because they're saving money, right? Guys, pay attention. Open up your eyes. Research. Listen to the news. Stop complaining. Stop arguing in the comments with other people about crap that does not matter. Educate yourself. Educate
your toenail.
Yourself. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't open it back up for your toenail.
Yeah. Don't open it back for your elbow, your toenail, your pinky. If it's life changing, if it's cardio, if it's anything with your lungs, if it's anything stuff that's going to affect you internally that you could pass away from something, then yes. But if it's for this or this, sit down somewhere, please. And
I don't know what's happening with toenails. I think I've seen a toenail every day this week. I don't know what's happening.
And that's a 0% anyway. You gonna die from a
toenails.
And
guess what? The 100%, you're not gonna get paid no more money.
No. The SMCs everybody's chasing.
If you 100% PNT, I need to poke the bear about my 3 TERA claim for DIC for my wife with heart issues.
If
your wife is the veteran? Wait a minute, what?
You the veteran? And you want your wife to get DIC because you have heart issues? Understand. Because if you have heart issues and you want to add it to your disability claim list because you want to make sure that your wife get DIC if you pass away from these heart issues, totally understand.
Wait, he's IU?
Yes.
And 100 PNT?
Oh, he said not me. I guess it's somebody else. Yeah.
So
If IUP, I need to poke the bear about my 3 TERA claims for DIC for my wife heart issues.
Well, I mean, if it's IU, I don't think that's really poking the bear.
Well, I think that if you're IU and you have 100%, you should stay home because I don't know. I don't know. Does his wife have the heart issue, or does he? Or is he saying he wants to poke the bear because he has heart issues just to make sure the wife gets DIC?
Yeah, because again,
you're joking.
Heart, lung.
I found insomnia, knees, back, shoulders, and TBI in VA medical charts. Incident not remembered. Oh, you had TBI and you can't remember? Okay.
Oh.
Just make sure your medical evidence is up to par and you're good to go.
Yeah, you can't remember.
We'll look at the evidence of record.
Heart is not service connected. I don't think I will make 10 years for her to get DIC. Stay hopeful. What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm sad. Don't do that.
No time on your life. Stay hopeful. Stay hopeful. You got it. Stay hopeful. Stay positive. We do that over here. No. Depends on how deep you're rated. US Army. My raw score is 98.3%. Yeah. If you know it's something that you
said he's 100% right.
Yeah,
that's still 100.
Do it. And guess what? Do not send me an email telling me that you got TDIU 3 days ago and now you can't take it and you want to go back to work and can you get something else different? Please and thank you.
A lot of people do that and go back to work and have the same problems they had and they end up getting fired.
Stay at home. I'm bored. Can I go to work? You can go to work. There's an income restriction that you can make. But if you go over $1, tell them $1.
Social Security snitching.
They snitching.
Triple S.
I get a lot of people that tell me, oh, I just got TDIU. I'm bored and I want to go back to work.
I could find something to do.
Lady's been married 44 years. I want her to be okay. Trying to do my part to take care. Totally understood. That's
so sweet.
Totally get it. Yes. 44 years is a long time.
Wow.
Yep. So do what you have to do. And if cardiovascular issues arise and you feel like you need to add it, then go ahead. That's understandable. But this and that pinky toe, it's not cutting it.
Hey, we got to do better. They've been married 44 years.
That's 44 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, it is we've been up here almost 2.5 hours. See, we cut up on Friday nights a lot. And I don't know if we're gonna do insomnia versus natural favorite thing on Sunday.
Not gonna be here. And these claims this week,
they were definitely different this week. I don't know what's happening.
So we could take a break from Q&A and we can do a committee hearing so we can let our hair down a little bit. And the little bit of hair that I do have, we can let it down and laugh a little bit. But anyway, guys, we talked tonight about a lot of different things, and I hope you guys were able to take away something from what we talked about tonight. If you serve and you were exposed and to anything harmful, don't assume that you do not qualify. That's one of the biggest things that I want to share with you. Do not assume that your past denial is your final answer as well, right? Keep trying because the rules have changed. There are some measures that have been put in place, and a lot of veterans are now getting approved for things that they were denied for before the PACT Act, TERA exposure, all that stuff came into light. So make sure that you do some research, okay? Compare whatever situation you're in. If you have unexplained diagnosis, like FF said, just think back, but make sure you have some diagnosis and you have some explanations, and things will work out in your favor for your claim, okay? This has been a great live tonight. I thoroughly enjoy you guys coming here to hang out with me, you as well at TikTok. And my YouTube community is definitely growing, and I'm excited. Even though this is a little challenging at times, I am excited for what's to come. So, ladies, Natural and FF, as always, the veteran community thanks you for your hard work, your dedication, the time well spent in giving us this information, coming here out of your personal time to give us the insight that we need. And we are extremely grateful for the education that you provide us here and in this community. So if you ladies don't have anything else, it has definitely been a pleasure to discuss these exposures, the PACT Act, the Gulf War tonight. I hope that you guys were able to take away something from it. If not, you can always come back and watch the video and, hope some of your questions are answered. So have an amazing weekend. Remember to pull out them records out of the garage, set your timer for 10 minutes, look for a couple of diagnoses. It will help you in your future. Be kind, drink your water, mind your business, and stay out of trouble, okay? Thank you, and I will definitely see you around soon. Take care, guys.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
You're not alone, you got a voice. Stand strong, stay informed. HerVetVoice.